Hey everybody, it's Leeroy from Leeroy Gaming, and it is Thursday. That means it is another Outriders Dev News Thursday. And in today's update, we have information on the upcoming patch. No, it's not coming today, but there is some great news. So the rise of the Technomancer is coming, boys. The big fix is coming in for the set that you know needs the fixin'. Also, some nice and interesting buffs for the Devastator. Also, an OP Pyromancer build is getting more buffed? Question mark. We shall see. All that and more right after this, boys. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump right into the news. Again, TLDR, no patch today. They're investigating some more bugs and blah, blah, blah crashes, as we know. Hopefully, it will come Tuesday. Worst case scenario, Thursday. But every time they've kind of missed a Thursday, they normally come out with Tuesday. So let's cross our fingers. So let's talk about what they're talking, what the status is. So first of all, our latest patch is mostly complete. Except for one outstanding issue, the crashes that appeared for some users attempting to launch Outriders since the previous patch are still being investigated. Yeah, this has hit me hard as well. Biggest thing I do recommend, make sure you're, if you're on NVIDIA, make sure that you have your drivers up to date. You can also try running in DX11, that's an option. But for me, just updating my drivers kind of fixed it. So this is an issue we are very keen to resolve before patching the game again, as we do not want subject players to such crashes any longer than absolutely necessary. We have a few leads on what may be causing crashes, but with some of the crashes appearing to be very random, having various different solutions for different people. Identifying the root causes proving tricky while running game in DX11 appears to be the most consistent fix, as I just mentioned. I've shared various different fixes and workarounds here, so you can check that out, that link in the official post. And again, I will at the bottom of the description share the link to these patch notes. However, our aim is, of course, to ensure that players shouldn't even encounter these to begin with. And then he's telling that you could share the DX diagnostics if you want to help out. They are saying we would very much like to release this patch as soon as possible, ideally next week, but a release will depend on identifying and resolving the aforementioned crashes. So, cross our fingers. Now, let's get to the fun stuff. So upcoming fixes and changes. Number one, we'll improve the multiplayer experience so that rubber banding and packet loss should now be reduced for players under 350 milliseconds ping. And 350 milliseconds ping is pretty high. So that's nice. I think I normally run between like 10 and 100 most of the time in these games. But again, 350 is going to help a lot of people. I know not everybody because it's still peer-to-peer. So like, if you have somebody in California and the other person's in New Guinea or something, it's still going to be a problem. We'll fix the Technomancer Borealis Monarch set and correctly grant the 90% damage increase to any frozen targets. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, so again, my Toxic Freeze build is going to be off the hook all the time. And my brand new Mr. Toxic Freeze build is going to be super awesome. In the video that I showed, I was able to get it to run effectively during my recordings, but then it would break randomly. But so prepare for it, gear up for it, boys. It's going to be awesome. Make sure to check that out in my build section. So they've resolved an issue of the Devastator statue set and changed its description to match its behavior. So I know, will it actually feel like it does something now? So the new description is, while either Tremor or Golem is active, increases firepower by 100% and weapon skill leech by 100% for you and your teammates. Now, here's the thing I want to understand. When it comes to weapon skill leech, is it going to just double it? So if you have 5%, it's going to double it to 100, or sorry, to 10? Or is it like literally going to up it to 100? I don't know. I'm guessing it's just going to double it, so you're still going to need some baseline, which still means you need to probably get a weapon with weapon skill leech, because in the skill tree, there's just not enough of it. Or there are some mods. There are some armor mods that can give you like 40% extra skill leech or life leech when hitting bleeding monster or killing something that's bleeding, I believe. All right, The old description said using either Tremor or Golem increases firepower by 100% and weapon skill leech by 100% for you and your teammates. So what is the difference either? Using. Okay, so one is basically saying that proccing it will utilize it, and this one, now it's saying it while it's going on, which I'm assuming if you basically, there are certain mods that will increase the duration of Tremor and Golem. You could basically make Golem almost infinite, almost, and in those cases, without cheating or bugging, you could basically make this almost permanent. So that's good. That is a nice buff. So the old functionality meant that statue set bonus could end after 8 seconds. Reworking this set means that the bonus can now be maintained for longer. Yeah, this is huge. 8 seconds was just trash. I mean, almost useless, considering, yeah, just was not good. But again, I still don't know if it'll be enough of a buff. We'll see. We'll improve the targeting of the Trickster's Venerator knife, so it should now more consistently target a player's intended target. That's good. Fix issue that can cause a Trickster's hunt prey to not turn player towards the enemy. That's good. We'll implement a change to the anti-duplication system, so your equip items will not take into account when checking whether to reroll a droppable duplicate. So I guess that's what they decided on based on our voting, etc. And I think that's probably the best. Fix the issue where players are level 50 may appear as level 1s while in a party. So here are some of the awesome and some controversial changes in my opinion. Number 1, Feed the Flame. The ammo replenishment by bullet absorption mod has been increased to 40% from 33%. Okay. I don't know if that's that big of a deal, because you still have to cast the ability. I guess if you have a build that you can spam this, that'll be good. Volcanic Rounds. The resistance debuff provided by the susceptibility mod has been increased to 50% from 34%. I don't run this in any of my builds. I wonder how big of a difference this would make. But it's a buff. Now this next one I do not like. This is actually kind of frustrating. So they're swapping reload boost and lava shots. So for anybody that's actually farmed one or the others on your like epics, this is going to be frustrating because now they're in reverse and you got to refarm them. Because now reload boost will increase anomaly power instead of firepower, and lava shot will increase firepower, not anomaly power. Why? I mean, if somebody can tell me why they would do this, link it in the comments. I mean, it just makes no sense to me. Because lava shot basically makes it as long. I mean, I can see why, because lava shot basically is, as long as that is active, your firepower increases by 25%, which anomaly power. So I used it on a build where you convert the anomaly power into firepower. So in a way, this is going to be a straight firepower build, which is good. But again, if you were purposefully using it for the other method, it's not so fun that it's got to be swapped. But you know, I guess in the long run, it's not going to really matter because people will forget, people will refarm and get it. But it's a bit of a shock there. Ash Blast. So this is where I was saying, as a lot of you know, the most probably overpowered build is even if you don't cheat, the Ash Blast builds are ridiculously good. And the one bottleneck is Ash Blast cooldown. So this decreases the base cooldown by 5%, which is awesome, because then you have all your cooldown reductions. So you can probably get this down to about a 10-second cooldown, maybe 9-second cooldown, which is closer. It will align closer with the other abilities. That's really good. And the buff duration of Death Sentence mod has been increased by 3 seconds to 8 seconds, which is really, really, really nice. I really like this. So these are big buffs, like noticeable buffs to Ash Blast Pyromancers. Unfortunately, I feel like if they wanted to make phaser builds or eruption builds better, because they're definitely weaker than the Ash Blast builds, they're failing miserably, and there's no buffs for those abilities. So I don't get this. I thought they were saying they're going to be buffing less use skills. Do they think we don't use Ash Blast like a lot? Because we do. Do they think this is not an amazing core ability for like probably the most powerful build, and also for cheaters the most abused build? I don't know. I'll leave it at that. I'm surprised that they're not buffing Eruption and Phaser Blast. Okay, let's look at Trickster. Borrow time reduces cooldown of borrow time by 3.5 seconds from 13.5 to 10. That's good. I mean, I think a lot of people, I mainly use this for the buffs when I do have it on a build, even though it's been a while since I used it on a build, as opposed to actual borrow time. But it's good because when it drops, you don't have as long of a cooldown, which is great. And then you can get maybe 30-40% cooldown on this, get it down to about 6-second cooldown. Cool. Slow trap, cooldown dropped by 10.7 seconds. Down to 20 seconds. That's very significant. Time rift. Cooldown time rift has been reduced by 3.4 seconds. So a lot of people have been using time rift earlier, like in their careers, but then they stopped because it takes too long to cool down. So we'll see if you can get this low enough to where people actually use this in the builds. But I like this. I mean, getting these cooldowns down, it's going to feel so much better for the Trickster. Increases the dot damage of a little bit of pain by 71%. Ooh. I don't remember which one a little bit of pain is. Mod. I'll have to double check that. Condense the dot duration of a little bit of pain to 6 seconds in 10. So this is kind of important. If you don't know what this means, it means it does all of its damage, I'm assuming, over 6 seconds. Now, they are increasing its damage per dot. So I wonder if these are just because of this. So it's meant to do the same amount of damage, just over 6 seconds instead of 10 seconds, which any way you cut it, most things don't survive 10 seconds. So this is a buff either way. Increase the armor and resistance debuff provided by Time Crack mod by 35%. Okay. Increase the weapon cleave damage provided pain transfer mod to 20% weapon damage instead of 10. That's good. So I believe it's now what, 30% of the AP and 20% of the weapon damage. A lot of people use this of like shotgun blast builds to elevate enemies where they're together and blast them with like a crit build with high damage shotguns and spread the damage. So it seemed to be effective with 10%. So I'm assuming it's going to be even more effective now, double. So Trickster's got some potentially really good. This last buff, I feel like it's going to be the most impactful. A little bit of pain, that should be good. Again, I'll have to double check. I don't remember off the top of my head that. So interesting changes there. Technomancer. There's a big surprise here that I'm telling. Oh, it's going to be so juicy. So Pain Launcher. Reduce the base cooldown of Pain Launcher by 10 seconds from 40 to 30. This is so needed. I mean, I have my most interesting build in the world that I utilize with Pain Launcher, and it was so painful. I actually got this down to like 10.1 seconds, I think, with all my cooldown reductions. So now I should be able to be able to spam this like every 5 or 6 seconds. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, and this is still such a long cooldown. They need to up the damage dramatically. It's literally the longest cooldown of any ability still, and it's not like it does that much damage. So this is a good start, but come on, boys, help us out. People Can Fly. It's still not going to be used. Scrapnel, reduce the base cooldown from 5 seconds by 5 seconds. That's always good because again, that's kind of the meta with like the Scrapnel builds. You can get up to 6 of these per cooldown. Not like you really need this because of your cooldowns reductions as is. You almost have this up the whole time. Here's the big one, boys. Freeze turrets. Let me tell you why this is so huge. The Hail Shot mod has had its SPF set to 1.5. So this is basically you're gonna get a 50% more use out of your status power. When you have twins, so when you get the 2 cryo turrets instead of 1, and then you put freeze turrets, hail shots under, and when you go like my Terminator build, check out my Terminator build, just trust me. Right now, it's not as competitive, it's not going to compete with a Blighted Rounds build, but it did a ridiculous amount of damage. Like the turrets do so much damage when you have hail shot on them. So them going up an extra 50%, and since you're getting status power on everything, this is going to be crazy. I'm working on a build to see if I can actually get more net damage out with the Borealis Monarch set, since that impacts turrets too. You combine this with this buff right here, which I think a lot of people will skim over, And I think this is going to make turret builds just bonkers good. So again, I'll be working on this for you boys. So have some patience for me. I'm definitely going to be working on it, but I think this is going to be really, really sexy and really, really good. All right, Devastators. Will you get some love? So Boulder Dash. Using this skill will now provide a significant 65% damage reduction during its animation. Good. Problem is it's still hard to steer. I do like the second part. Players can now press the trigger again to use an AoE attack during their run animation. Now, can you spam this or will it end it? I have a build that's in my back pocket called the Juggernaut build that utilizes this. When I first built it months ago, unfortunately, it just didn't compete. Maybe this will help. Probably not quite yet. Step in the right direction, though. They just need to up the damage some more. Endless Mass. Enemies affected by Endless Mass can now be damaged and killed. Oh, yes. This is huge. I literally said in one of my earlier videos when I was talking about what needs to be changed, Endless Mass was my biggest complaint because the enemies become invincible and it's like, it's horrible. It's like them being spiked except that they're alive, and this made no sense for them to be able to be damaged. So this is really good. So it's like a crowd control, but they still take all the damage. And then change the Wide Horizons mod so that on top of the range increase, the mod will allow Endless Mass to ignore the enemy skill Absorbing Skin. Used by Alpha Perforators and Broodmothers. Really? I have no idea what Absorbing Skin is, but now I am extremely curious. And that sounds good. Reflect Bullets. Ending the skill early will now refund a part of the cooldown, up to 90%. The problem is, I think most people use the mod that lets you attack while using it, so this doesn't help. But if you use it traditionally, okay. I just don't think anybody does. All right, we're not done yet, boys. Universal buffs. Armor buff, mod buffs. Personal space will have its damage bonus increased from 15 to 25%. Okay. Crit stack will have its anomaly power boost increased by 21%. Base 5.79. This is nice. This is nice. This is very nice. So if you have a crit build, high firepower weapons, especially if you're doing the anomaly to firepower like hybrid conversion, this could be very, very good. Stand Tall will have its base firepower bonus increased by 20% and its base anomaly plus by 16%. That could be really good too. This could be a new kind of go-to for a tier 2 mod for hybrid builds. So if you're wondering, like an example of a hybrid build, my bleeding my goodness, my bleeding my brain just went dead, boys, right in the middle of recording. Bleeding Volcanic Bullets build that just came out maybe last week. This will be very, very helpful for that. Crit stack is going to help it. Stand Tall will potentially have a spawn in it. I'm liking it. Perseverance Shield will have its shield value increased by 40%. And then Dispatch also fixed the bug where its Perseverance Shield could trigger and grant shield after death. So, I mean, nerf, I guess, but I mean, I've never used this on a build, so woo. Blazing Aegis will have the armor increase granted by 21%. Okay. Plate Dodger will have its armor value granted increased by 12%. And duration increased from 5 to 7 seconds. And this is another big one, boys. Again, this is for all the hybrid builds, like my Bleeding Volcanic rounds. Anomaly Enhancement will have its coefficient increased from 30% to 40%. And then don't forget, with some classes like the Trickster, as well as the Pyromancer, you can get an extra 15% on a skill tree. You can get that to 55% conversion. That, boys, is bonkers good. You can basically get more firepower off a hybrid build than you would from a pure firepower build and still get the benefits of firepower or of anomaly power. Very, very good. And Bone Shrapnel will have its damage increased by 5%. I mean, that's a very popular tier 2 mod, so can't complain. So those are all the big elements. There's still obviously a lot they're working on. It's going to be the same as my last update. I think the biggest one that's sadly, I'm trying to see, there was a Devastator. Did they, actually they're not mentioning that they still have issues with the Devastator Despair mod. So we'll see if that gets, it wasn't mentioned in the fixed buffs here, but hopefully that means they're going to fix it. So that's it. That's everything for this news note, boys. Again, cross our fingers that it comes out next week. This is good news for the game. Again, as I mentioned, I still have some concerns on why they're buffing certain things for Pyro and not others. Same with Devastator, still needs some work. Loving the changes on Technomancer. And Trickster is heading in the right direction as well. So, loving it. Not really, as you noticed, almost nothing but buffs. It's the way to go. This is a co-op game. No reason to nerf the crap out of really good stuff. Just make the weak stuff better. All right, boys. Till next time, this is Leeroy from Leeroy Gaming, and I'll see you in the next one.